Hey Riverside Kids, here's 2 dance moves to help you learn this week's dance. Our first dance move is called the spinning shuffle. We're going to have one foot down as one stomps in a circle. And then we're going to repeat to the other side. You got it, guys. Alright, our second dance move is we're going to put our hands in the air and we're going to do semicircles in the air as we step side to side. And there you have it. Let's get started.
When I was searching, your love was never far. You made a way to get to me. You were the whisper leading me to your heart. Forever I belong to you. Now I can see clearly, my God, you for me. You won't let go. Your love won't let me down. And I know it's true. Yeah, I know that your love is all around. I believe in you, holding on to you, holding on, and I know you will never fail. I want all of you, you never change. Your love won't let me down. Love won't let me Love won't let me Love won't let me. Right when I need you, you listen as I pray. You leave the 99 for me. You paint the sky with promises of your grace. So I will find my way to you. Now I can see clearly, my God, you for me. You won't let go. Your love won't let me down. And I know it's true. Yeah, I know that your love is all around. I believe in you, holding on to you, holding on, and I know you will never fail. I want all of you, you never change. Your love won't let me down. Love won't let me holding on, and I know you will never fail. I want all of you, you'll never change. Your love won't let me down. Love won't let me.
Hey Riverside Kids! Welcome to this week's lesson. We have been learning all about the prophet Samuel.
We learned that he became the prophet and last judge of Israel at a very young age.
Samuel guided and led the Israelites for over 20 years before the Israelites wanted to be like other countries. They wanted a human king.
Samuel warned that having a human king would add a lot of problems. God told Samuel it was okay and to find a king. God sent him a man named Saul.
Saul did great at first, but later he started taking credit for himself and not listening to God.
Samuel finally told King Saul that God would rip away the kingdom from him because Samuel knew Israel would not survive without a king that did not serve God.
So Samuel prayed to God to send another king. God sent him to see a man named Jesse.
Jesse had a son there that God wanted to be the next king of Israel. Samuel went on his way to meet him.
He knocked on Jesse's door, and 7 of his sons came out to see who was here to visit. Samuel looked at each one of them and saw special qualities in all of them.
God spoke to Samuel and said, "Don't look at appearance or height. That was not one of the qualities God wanted in the new king."
Samuel listened but felt there was something missing in each one of the men. Samuel asked Jesse if he had any more sons.
Jesse told him that he still had the youngest son, but he was watching the sheep.
Samuel asked Jesse to see him. They called David, the youngest, over to see what Samuel would think. And when he saw him, he knew that he was the one God chose.
God saw David had a pure heart and he loved and trusted God. Samuel told Jesse this young man would be the next king of Israel.
Samuel said God chose him and that he would anoint David that day.
David must have been so excited to hear that he was chosen to be the next king of Israel.
That same day they sacrificed a cow to the Lord and had a feast in the honor of David. Samuel had to make it look like it was just a regular party going on because he had to hide the fact that he anointed David as the next new king of Israel. If King Saul found out, he would be really angry.
Samuel left for home, and I'm sure he always prayed for protection over David. Soon, King Saul would ask for someone to play music for his tortured mind.
The people suggested David, Jesse's son, to come play the harp for him. King Saul allowed him to come and enjoy the music. It gave him peace for a short time.
He even began to like David and had him do other things for him. King Saul had no idea David was anointed by God to take his place.
Can you imagine little David watching over the sheep, and then a few minutes later, he was told that he would be watching over the kingdom of Israel?
David didn't have any training to be a king, but God secretly had David placed in the kingdom to learn how things worked while he was playing music for King Saul.
So David was being trained right in front of King Saul, and they both didn't even know it. Very smart. Samuel really was the beginning of a huge epic story. Although Samuel is retired, we'll see him again later on in David's story.
I'm so glad Samuel always listened to God for guidance so all of this could happen. God used Samuel since he was a baby and David when he was just a young kid. That means God can use you.
God has big plans for all of us. We just don't know what they are yet. God will use you wherever you are. You might even be learning or training for something big and you don't even know it yet.
Wow! Join us next week as we begin the story of David, the rising king.
And keep watching for this week's craft. We'll see you next time.
Bye!